Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the Hudsucker Proxy from 1994. And this is a winner of the Patreon movie review vote. If you would like for me to review a movie of your choice, then click on the link below and pledge, and maybe I'll be reviewing your movie next month. This movie was selected by a guy named Crystal. So the Hudsucker Proxy is a weird one in the filmography of the Coen brothers. It's actually between two of their biggest, most acclaimed movies, Barton Fink and Fargo, and you would think, just going off of filmography, that this would sort of be like, a really good movie and stuff. I'm not gonna totally shit on this movie. I think it's really interesting, and I had actually not seen this as like the one Coen Brothers movie I never got around to, so I'm glad that this is selected for this. But I don't think it has, like, the Coen Brothers are usually good at either getting to a point or you enjoying it so much you don't mind it didn't have a point. And I don't think this, I think maybe this sort of did this, but it sort of wants to believe it will work out in the end, even if it doesn't. Now, Hudsucker Proxy, I mean, it I don't know, and it is like sort of their, what was considered at the time their big budget movie, and like people still talk about like, oh, it's the biggest budget they still ever worked for. It's like $25 million. I didn't look up all their budgets, but I'm fairly certain they have made a movie for more than $25 million since then, but whatever. I do think it is incredibly ambitious, very different for them, very strange. Even for their comedies, it feels like sort of its own unique thing. And maybe that's because it was co-written by Sam Raimi. Maybe it's because it's like both trying to be a Preston Sturges thing and Frank Capra, but then takes place in the 50s. Why, it doesn't really seem to know. It's like a fairy tale, but like an homage to classic Hollywood, and then, a strange movie made by three weird Midwestern filmmakers who were really excited to do this and never thought about why. One of the more beautiful movies that I'm not sure understood what it was doing, but it's still a great experience to get through. The Hudsucker Proxy is about where a company where the CEO jumped out of the window during a board meeting, mind you, and killed himself, and the rest of the board wants to sort of buy back all of his stock before it's available to be traded by the public, but their stock costs too much money because they're so successful, so they need to drive down the stock, and the way to do that is to get a kind of proxy kind of person to be the CEO, so it embarrasses the company and the stock goes down. So they get Tim Robbins, who just came from business college or whatever, in the mailroom, and he comes up and it's all going great until he invents the hula hoop, which becomes a success and stuff. And Jennifer Jason Leigh is there, and she is trying to uncover what's exactly going on, and is an investigative reporter playing his secretary. I've seen, Sam Raimi and the Coen brothers have written two films, one that Sam Raimi directed, one that the Coen brothers directed. Even though it says Joel Coen, they used to do that. I don't know why. But one of them, I think Joel would often get the credit, and Ethan and Joel would write, or Ethan would produce. Anyway, it was really stupid. Now it's just the Coen brothers. But I remember that time, and I was like, but why do we call them the Coen brothers? I guess because they're brothers, but now they're whatever. Or they're both credited, I think. So much like the other film that they all wrote together, Crime Wave, this is calling back to, cinema's past, basically, and them trying to sort of do a style exercise because they're really into that sort of thing and have fun creatively. I totally get that, and I think that's like something that really soars about this. I mean, look, they have Roger Deakins here. All the sets are amazing. All the production design is amazing. It's a glorious film to look at, which is true of most Coen Brothers films. I mean, and Sam Raimi films. They're all very good technical filmmakers, so you want to look at it. You want to look at this film all the time. But I think the writing in this, although the casting's really good, and there's so much good about this movie, you almost want to let it. I almost want to be like, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. But like let's take the casting. You have Tim Robbins, who's like, this is soon after Bob Roberts, which is I reviewed it a while ago. He's perfect. Is that Paul Newman's sort of an interesting choice, because the way he's cast, it sort of is like he was in these kind of movies. I don't think he was, or at least if he was, it's not what he's known for. And then, although he's very good, I think Tim Robbins and Paul Newman are really great in this film. The real standout is Jennifer Jason Leigh, who comes in like a bullet, exactly like Rosalind Russell on in His Girl Friday. She is completely over the top and ridiculous, but she nails it so well. I know there's a thing, Winona Ryder talking about how she tried to get this movie and it didn't work out, and a lot of people tried to get this role. But as soon as I saw her burst out on screen, I was like, no, never mind. I see why Jennifer Jason Leigh got this. She's just absolutely astonishing in this role. She's really, really good. She looks exactly like she's someone from the 40s, but also is able to do more to that than just make it a caricature. I really thought she was really great in this. I don't know how she didn't get nominated, or this film didn't get more acclaim at the time. But I think, look, there is so much working for it. And I think I agree with the thing to a certain degree that, you know, your main job is, as a director, is like casting, getting the right creative team and stuff, and letting them work. And they totally did that. But I think the thing with the Hudsucker Proxy is like, I feel the same way with Crime Wave, where it was like, okay, this is a really cool, like, all this stuff. Visually, it's wonderful to look at, but it sort of didn't mean anything. And this one, I think, tries to mean more, but I don't think it really understands fully what it's sort of saying with that style. Like, Frank Capra and Preston Sturges are not exactly, like, I sort of see the similarities, but they're sort of different stylistically. And it's like, I don't think they have an understanding of why they're mixing those styles. The whole plot idea is like a total classic Hollywood plot. So I get that element of it. But it's like, you have to get to somewhere with this. And it just sort of feels like it goes in typical directions. And I don't know. I don't want to shit on a Coen Brothers movie, particularly from this period. This has always been the one that people have mixed reactions to. And when I was first getting into movies, like, this is the one people were wishy-washy about, and like, it's like skip, and I just never got around to it. I don't have like I was always like, I should do this, you know. But it is a really interesting film. But I don't think, like, when they, you know, the Coen Brothers and Sam Raimi, when they call back to classic Hollywood movies, I think that works better than when they actually do classic Hollywood movies, you know. It like never works. They want to play too much. And this is like, I don't think they're always like playing, but I don't think they're like saying anything while playing with this. It's like, you would think you would have something to say about these two auteurs and their styles and their dialogue and stuff, and it uses kind of the frameworks and the genre conventions, and with like the greatest sets you could imagine, and like with one of our great movie stars and all this stuff for them to play with. And I often feel like sometimes their comedies, they're not as interesting or as good as when they're doing like their crime or their drama stuff. I feel the same way after like Burn After Reading or Intolerable Cruelty and like stuff like that. It sort of just never really works for me as much. It just sort of feels like they're trying to be outwardly goofy, but like only they think it's funny, and not in that like endearing way when the filmmaker thinks it's funny and you don't. You're like, oh, this guy's silly. It just feels like, I don't know, it just feels a little hollow in those places. I understand like that's what they were going for and so forth. It's a really wonderful film to look at. It feels like there's so many secrets in it. Like, why is Peter Gallagher is just a singer in this in one scene real quick and like never comes back. I have no clue what the deal is with that. It confused me. After the movie was over, I was like, why was Peter Gallagher in this? Like, I don't understand. I know he's not the biggest star, but like, Sex Lies and the Videotape wasn't that old when this came out. It's also weird, like, 94 is a pretty big movie year, and like for them to sit that one out in like what's considered peak creative time, which is like, I think it sort of reminds me of the Spielberg film, was it 1942, where it's like, I don't really like to revisit that one that much, but like anytime I watch it, like visually, it's really amazing to look at, because it's like Spielberg between like Jaws and Raiders, so of course he's like firing on all cylinders, and this is like the Coen Brothers between like two movies I love, Barton Fink and Fargo, and you think like there'd be so much there, but it feels like they're just sort of playing around. But part of me is like, I mean, it's like fun to watch, like they really nail certain things, like it feels like kind of the collaboration of all those guys together, like just sort of messing around in film styles. I like that Bruce Campbell's in this. Supposedly he didn't have to audition, because when they asked him to, he's like, I think you guys have seen enough of my work that I shouldn't have to audition, which if you know anything about the Sam Raimi Coen Brothers past is like 100% true and like totally fair, and he got the role. But I like this. It's like, why should I have to do that? Motherfucker, I knew you edited me. I did enjoy this film, and I'm really glad I actually finally got to see it, because it's sort of like a big blind spot in my movie watching, and I don't have a reason for it. But I do like the sequence Sam Raimi directed, the sequence in the middle, because Sam Raimi was also the second unit director on this. The whole hula hoop saga is really amazing. I know Patrick H. Williams did a video on that. And there's a lot of elements. It is interesting seeing the Coen brothers filter in somebody and mess with that and creatively like do something, because they don't really ever write with someone else. But I just think it's like, what are you doing with this style? Like, why have Preston Sturges and Frank Capra? Like, because they're both like shucksiness, but like this sort of played like that but didn't. And it's like comments on fame are pretty elementary and like a little boringy, and like I just don't really think this film knew fully what it was going to say. It's just sort of hoping the whole presentation of it can get you through it, and like that is like 100% true. This is an amazing film to look at. It's amazing to look at the sets. It's cool to look at Tim Robbins like right in his like goofiness prime, Jennifer Jason Leigh doing a great performance, Paul Newman being a mean son of a bitch he's actually pretty damn good at. But it's like all these things coming together, and you know, Bruce Campbell's there, and Peter Gallagher. Why? I still don't understand that. But like all things together to make this is fun to watch. I know I bring up like there's like an alchemy to filmmaking, but this is one of those where I'm like, there's an alchemy. It was fun to watch, but like I don't think it would really stay with me. I totally agree with it. It's like, of the early Coens, it is just sort of like this weird off picture, but it's such a different off picture between like Barton Fink and Fargo. It just feels like those have like distinct points and are very interesting and thought-provoking. And it feels like that this is sort of there, but not really. It feels like I don't want to say they got lost in the money, because they were sort of off for this after the success critically, particularly in Cannes and stuff, of Barton Fink. And which I can totally get why any producer would be like, I gotta sign these guys up and let them do whatever they want. And this is the result of it, which is probably why Hollywood was like, nah, fuck these guys. I do think, and it seemed like I watched the Siskel and Ebert review, it seems like critics at the times were not fond of this, and I totally get that. But sometimes I also think like this is a very fascinating movie, and I think it's a film that basically exists on that. Do I think like I get everyone wanting to reappraise it, because people like interesting movies are more fun to go to bat for than like a procedural that was decent, you know? It's like not something like it's fun if you can talk about it. And this movie can, but does that in fact make it that great? And I don't think it is that great in their filmography, and I do think it sort of like plays with these two styles and doesn't really know, you know, it's not really saying anything about these styles, it's not really doing anything with these styles. It's different. It's just sort of like them doing it, and it's like, cool, sometimes people need to, you know, just record a cover song, but don't expect me to like it or respect it or find it as interesting as when you make something different and original. And that's sort of how I feel like. It's like you did sort of like this interesting, odd, semi-direct cover mixing these two together, but like it looks and sounds and everything wonderful, and it's like a miracle that it happened. But I'm kind of questioning what the point of it even really was, and I think that's like a glaring error of the whole film. Like it's just like, had it crescendo to something, we'd be like, oh wow, great. But like even like the sequence where him and Jennifer Jason Leigh are dancing, it's like a dream sequence, was odd. There's a lot of odd choices, but so, you know, I think maybe sometimes with the Coens it's just fun to watch what they're messing around with, and I think this probably fits into that category. It's just that it feels like when you're messing with Capra and Preston Sturges, you kind of have to have a reason for messing with it, and the style itself sort of demands a distinct point, and I don't know if this film really successfully does that. Is it fun to watch them sort of mess around to try to get to not really that much of a point? It is fun, but I think the films that come before and after this kind of make you want to just deal with their classics and wonder how this kind of got in between them. But it's an interesting odd, you know, their 1942 an odd, interesting movie between two true classics, and you kind of wonder how exactly this happened, and maybe it shows you how fickle and easily faltered, true auteur genius can be. So if you've seen the Hudsucker Proxy and you'd like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to. And this is a winner of the Patreon movie review vote. If you would like for me to review a movie of your choice, then click on the link below and pledge. Maybe I'll be reviewing your movie next month. Thank you very much for watching.